if you go to some sort of sci-fi scenario where he builds a robot army and goes completely mad and no one can kind of stop it. I mean, I don't think something like that would happen, but clearly, they won't be able to really control what happens next with Tesla if he holds a huge amount of sway with his 25%.
Hi, I'm Jo Crawford and welcome to Times Radio's Tech Report. Today I'm joined by Helen Cahill, M&A and restructuring correspondent for The Times. Thank you for joining me on the Tech Report today.
Hi, thanks so much for having me on.
Can you just give me a recap of what the proposed package is for Elon Musk and what's been the situation since?
Yes, so he has successfully gotten his shareholder approval for this $1 trillion pay deal. Obviously, it could be the largest corporate pay deal in history. It would make him the world's first trillionaire as well. And of course, he does have to achieve some pretty stretching targets to get there. So he has to, the main milestone that he has to do is get Tesla's market valuation to $8.5 trillion. And so for context, the company is now worth about 1.4 trillion. So that's obviously a long way to go for him there. And then some other milestones, he needs to deliver 1 million humanoid robots. They're called his Optimus robots. Then he has to sell 20 million Tesla vehicles. And he has to get quarterly profits up to 400 billion for 4 consecutive quarters. And that's also going to be quite a feat because currently their quarterly profits are at around kind of 4.2 billion. So a long way for him to go, but it would also be a kind of, massive payout for him if he's able to do all of that.
And it's interesting because, when you talk about those AI-powered robots, Tesla hasn't actually released any so far, have they?
No, we've seen them kind of dancing on stage at the AGM. And they look very kind of high tech. But we don't really know precisely what they're about. And we do know that, they feel that they can be used for hospitals, potentially in prisons. He said these robots could be used for kind of either dangerous work or work that humans find boring. It's sort of, very sci-fi, isn't it? It's that kind of ultimate sci-fi vision of a humanoid robot being run by technology. So let's see what this robot army really looks like.
I mean, part of this pay package is sort of it's showing that progression of Tesla moving towards AI, isn't it? Do we have any other indications of the ways in which Musk is going to expand Tesla, and especially with AI?
He's got the kind of self-driving cars, and there are subscriptions for those as well. But when he's talking about this pay deal, it does feel like there has been a big focus on the robots. He seems to be saying that this could be the biggest development in human history. Obviously, he loves his superlatives, but it does seem to be a little bit kind of differentiated from what other AI people are doing. So it's not like ChatGPT, for example. So he's not kind of competing with the large language models in terms of producing content. He's producing an army that can perform kind of physical functions. So I think that will be his focus for sure.
And although this pay package was approved by majority of shareholders, Musk, he didn't receive backing from everyone, did he? And that included one of Tesla's key shareholders, the Norway government pension fund Global. Could you tell me who they are? What's their involvement in Tesla? How significant are they?
Yes, so they're also known as, the Norway Oil Fund or the Norwegian Sovereign Wealth Fund. They're a massive investor. They take the kind of surplus revenues from Norway's oil industry and invest it in companies and assets around the world to kind of benefit the Norwegian citizens. So they're huge globally. They have $1.9 trillion in assets, and they own 1.1% of Tesla. So they are the 6th largest shareholder in Tesla, which makes them important, but it's also important to remember that they have 1.1% and Elon Musk himself owns 15% currently. So they can't sway a vote on their own, and that's why they'll come out with a statement and sort of say, this is what we're going to do, because they want to sort of influence other shareholders. That's really their only hope of swaying a particular decision at this sort of AGM.
And what was their reasoning behind that?
They've come out against his previous pay deals, so they opposed his 56 billion pay deal that was ultimately destroyed by the Delaware court. So they are kind of generally opposed to these big deals for Trump. So they cited 3 specific reasons for this one. They said they didn't like the overall size of the deal. So it's obviously extremely large. I think it's larger than the GDP of Ireland. So, there are probably kind of equality concerns there outside of what he does for one particular company. They've also said they don't like the fact that it will dilute their position in the company, so that they already don't hold a huge amount of sway compared to Musk, and his shareholding will go up from 15% to 25% as he gets shares in reward for him achieving these metrics. So they'll have less influence at the end of it. And they've also said that there isn't enough to mitigate against what they called key person risk. So obviously the key person here is Musk, and the risks, I guess, if you go to some sort of sci-fi scenario where he builds a robot army and goes completely mad and no one can kind of stop it. I mean, I don't think something like that would happen, but clearly, they won't be able to really control what happens next with Tesla if he holds a huge amount of sway with his 25%.
Was there any other names that were thrown out there if Musk is replaced? Because he does also have to try and find someone that who will potentially replace him in the future, doesn't he, as part of this package?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's interesting is that there weren't really, that many names that were thrown up. And I think that kind of tells you why that's such a big threat from Musk. A lot of his shareholder base are there because he is Elon Musk and they really like him. So about 13% of the shareholder register are retail shareholders. So, they will be very persuaded to vote in favor of something out of the concern of losing their man, because they're kind of his fan base. And yeah, he's very much the powerhouse behind the brand. And I'm not sure, there were many kind of contenders. Again, him being asked to work on the succession plan, as you say, is another signal that there's no one really that they feel could easily replace him at the moment, but they know that he won't be there forever, and he needs to make sure that there's someone who could step up at some stage.
How's Musk responded to this package being approved? And also, has he sort of indicated any ways in which he's planning to achieve the goals that are being set out there?
So it's been kind of fairly recent, obviously, that this happened, but obviously his immediate response was he seemed pretty happy. They kind of played some techno music at the AGM and he did a little dance on stage, sort of almost dad dancing, kind of crouching down and swaying from side to side. And he was dancing next to his humanoid robot, who I have to say looked a little bit slicker in terms of the dance moves. But yeah, he said, this is sick. All the other AGMs out there are a snooze fest and our AGM is an absolute banger. So he was very much playing to his retail shareholder base who were all there, and they like his kind of direct conversational style of speaking. So yeah, he seemed kind of grateful and happy. I've not heard a huge amount of detail on how he's going to get there, but it's important to remember that last time they gave him this 56 billion package, they voted that through, the shareholders, he did achieve the targets that were set out there. So I find it very difficult to know whether he'll be able to do this. He's got a lot of competition from China. Profits are down. Sales have been flagging since he left. So only time will tell, really, if he can. But he's achieved some pretty crazy things in the past. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Would you say that the approval of this proposed pay package and the support from the majority of shareholders for this, it indicates that perhaps the hit that he took reputationally from his involvement with the White House earlier this year, and also the impact that had on Tesla, do you think that this is a sign that people have moved on from that?
Yeah, I think it's a sign that people have moved on, but it's also a sign actually that they feel they really need him. And much of the discussion around this pay deal was making sure that he would come in and focus on Tesla. Interestingly, Legal & General, the British insurer that came out against the deal, their concern with the pay package was that it didn't cite specifically how much time he would have to spend on Tesla. He's agreed to wind down his political activities, but he can still run SpaceX, his space business, and obviously he still owns X, formerly known as Twitter. So he's not specifically said, I'm going to spend this much time on Tesla and that much time on my other business interests, which could become equally as engrossing. So they are concerned that the White House was a distraction and they want him back. So yeah, they've kind of achieved that, I guess, by offering him $1 trillion. So yeah, they'll be thrilled they've got his interest.
Well, Helen, thank you so much for joining me on the Tech Report today.
Thank you so much.